Hey, friends, you are tuning into yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle. I'm your host, Crander Q, a.k.a. my real name. As you can see, we got our friend Kay joining us today. But before we dive into that beautiful conversation here, let's give a huge shout out to our friend Bobby Joe over at Inside Out Nutrition, wellness coach and healthy lifestyles. She's on Facebook there at facebook.com/Inside Out Nutrition. Officially has hit 700 followers. Have you ever had a healthy donut, Kay? I'm obsessed with these things. I got to ask everybody, have you ever had a healthy donut?
I don't think I've actually had one that I could ever consider healthy.
Gotcha. And I don't think most people think that donuts is healthy, but I am obsessed. She has worked a vendor table with us, and I have to control myself from eating all of the samples that she brings because they are for the fans, the friends, so she can promote her business. But I'm a big boy. I'm built like Otis, and I like to eat. But we're not here to talk donuts. We're here to talk about your wrestling fandom, Kay. So let's just dive into it. What are some of your earliest memories?
I mean, like when I started actually kind of picking up on just pro wrestling as a thing, it was during the kind of early to mid '90s pop culture. It was literally everywhere. You could not turn on the television without seeing
Mhm.
Hulk Hogan or like a Randy Savage Slim Jim commercial. Something there was something connected to it, and I don't know. I kind of got drawn to it, and then eventually started just kind of actually breaking into it. It's like, oh, this is on TV at like an earlier time. So there I am, like, 8 years old, like, oh my God, I can actually watch Sunday Night Heat without, having to like go to bed or whatever. And like,
Got a little bit of a
kind
freeze
of,
there. It'll come back here, folks.
yeah.
I know it doesn't show it on camera, but here we go. Kay, you're back. If you want to just reiterate that one more time. Sorry.
Where did I cut off?
Right after Macho Man, we'll start there. Pop culture
Yeah.
and
Okay, gotcha. So, I mean, from there, I kind of just dove into it on my own. So, like, watching, like, some of the B shows,
Mhm.
Sunday Night Heat and, what was the other one? Velocity. Or what was I don't know, one of the other ones. But
Velocity. I can't say the word. That was one of them. Yep. Yep.
yeah, so like watching some of the earlier shows, I actually had like access to that, and then started kind of really getting into like the Monday Night Wars,
Okay.
like mid like 1998. It like really like hit. First like big memory of all that was that one particular DX skit. It's kind of hard to pin like a specific
When
problematic
they pulled up
DX
the
skit, but
WCW there.
no, when they were imitating Nation of Domination,
Oh,
and
okay. Now that one. Okay.
they had the impressionist who was
Hmm.
dressed up like Owen Hart, and the caution tape and the big prosthetic nose. Like that was like the first like thing that I remember like wholeheartedly, like from that point. That was like the starting point on. So I mean,
Gotcha. Gotcha. I believe that's like I don't know if it's in there or not. I'll have to go back and watch that skit. But like, I'm not a nugget. I remember that being a thing that he would say. And they had that poor skinny guy wrapped in caution tape, like you said, the
yeah,
prosthetic nose. I forgot all about that one. I thought you were gonna go
yeah.
with the Jeep pulling up to WCW with
See,
Road Dogg and all those guys.
I definitely remember that one, but
Mhm.
that wasn't like the first one.
Gotcha.
Like I don't know. That was one of those ones that like stuck with me probably for just like a ton of reasons.
Mhm.
Mainly just why is this like this isn't is this wrestling? I'm intrigued.
It's just wrestling, right? Right. How do you explain that to non casual wrestling fans? So
Oh, right. It's just which iceberg do you want me to jump into? I mean,
that's pretty much,
yeah,
yep.
where do you even start? Like, how do you unpack all of that? Like,
And X Pac did Mark Henry, correct?
yup,
That is not acceptable. We do not condone that. Different time. I'm sure that Mark Henry was okay with it. Some people probably
yeah.
weren't, but we're not condoning that. It just flashed in my mind there. So
Right. A lot of things from the Attitude Era, while yes, memorable, some of it has just not aged well.
yeah, I mean, Mae Young giving birth to a hand. I do like that they did the callback where the hand was backstage for that segment. That was pretty funny. But a
Yeah.
lot of my friends will say that the Attitude Era isn't really that great if you go back and watch it. There's
It
better
had
eras in my opinion. So
there was definitely a lot of classic matches for
Mhm.
sure. And like there was definitely some good dynamics in the storylines, but those were kind of mixed into all the other things that everyone tends to forget about
Mhm.
a little bit.
Yeah,
So
that
I don't know.
mid
It's
card
just a
section. I mean, oof,
mm,
rough.
little bit.
Yeah, I mean I discovered Cactus Jack through the Attitude Era. I was a McFoley fan. Still am, I guess. I loved him
Yeah,
as Mankind. And sometimes I was a little slow back then with wrestling. I'm a huge Gold Dust fan as well. I didn't realize that he was Dustin Rhodes until like a few things were brought out. And again, like Mankind, I didn't realize that was Cactus Jack until someone smartened
yeah,
me up. I knew it was Dude Love, but the Cactus Jack thing threw me for a loop for sure. So
yeah. It's always weird when you finally have those realizations about
mhm,
like the inner workings of certain things, and you start like being a little bit more of an observant fan. Like when I don't know the kind of the decline of kayfabe over the years,
mhm.
and getting the actual sneak peeks into everything, like seeing that sort of thing as it's happening. It's kind of I don't know. It's kind of unreal.
Yeah, you bring up kayfabe. One thing, the joke that goes around, like, it's the holidays, and there's no need to argue with your friends and family members over the holidays and tell them that Undertaker and Kane aren't real brothers. I bring that up because when he had that voice thing, I thought that
Mm,
legit was real. I
right,
was like, wow, this dude has to use one of those voice boxes. And since then, I've never seen anybody use one.
right.
And it's just crazy how that little thing stuck with me in that storyline that I actually thought was real. And then when he took the mask off and all that was a whole nother character arc. But yeah, kayfabe back
Yeah.
then, I was pretty slow to. I will admit, I thought everything was real. So,
Like it took a little while. Like I knew that there was some sort of, like pageantry or theatrics to it. It kind of
mhm,
got ruined for me when I was like really little, like kind of
gotcha.
kind of when I was starting like the super fandom, super excited small kid getting really into, pro wrestling, eating up everything because I mean it
Hmm.
was it was the 90s and for sure I was a mark. Uh
I still
but
am.
nothing wrong with that though. I mean, but so like I got the explanation of like how Gorgeous George came to prominence mainly because of entering the music. Nobody did that. The
Hmm.
showmanship, being a gigantic heel, like
Yep.
that all got explained to me by I think it was my great grandmother at one point. I'm just like, huh, that's an interesting aspect of that, and it's just like
Hmm.
I questioned everything from that point on.
Yeah. And was there any wrestlers that really stuck out that made your fandom even more? For me, like I said, Gold Dust. It was just something unique, crazy. I had to see what was going to happen next. And then he, kind of for a while when he was feuding with The Undertaker and had Mankind helping him, it was just so crazy that I wanted to see what was going to happen next. Was there any wrestlers that stuck out like that for you that just kind of sucked you in?
Oh man, see, I kind of ended up catching it like halfway through the build-up, but it was definitely Sting during the lead up to Starcade '97,
Okay.
like
With
when
Hogan there? Yep. Okay.
when he had first gone, like the Crow,
Hmm.
he wasn't actually really, he didn't have an official match for God months, like at least like 8 9 months
Hmm.
during that whole build up, which the pay per view itself was kind of disappointing. The whole Bret Hart coming in to I don't know
Oh,
the
ref.
Dusty
Yeah.
finish at the end there. It just turned into a mess. Like that was pretty disappointing after all of that build because I was so into it. And like I think it was just the general like character building and how they presented all of that. Like Sting during that era definitely like sucked me in.
Yeah, definitely. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now, because him and Lex were a tag team when he was like Surfer Sting. Uh, excuse me, more serious kind of Surfer Sting when he
Yeah,
was with Lex, and I thought that was like one of the coolest tag teams. I like those guys, and then Lex is chasing him out to the limo. Lex is trying to get his attention. And again, me being oblivious to everything was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what is Sting doing? And I always bring this memory up, and I brought it up to Kevin Nash. The moment that still sticks with me is like iconic is when they threw poor Rey Mysterio like a lawn dart at that trailer. I was like, oh my gosh, this is real.
Ooh.
What is happening? They're beating everybody up backstage. And, you know, to have the cops actually show up at that event thinking it was really happening. I mean, you know,
So you mentioned that bump, and I see that like in my head. That was bad. Like
yeah, just
they got the
jumps off.
angle
Yep. Mm-hmm.
just wrong / right. Like that
Yep.
looked like it could have definitely gone very wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I brought that up to Kevin Nash. He got a chuckle out of it. I told him, hey, thanks for making my childhood awesome. And he's like, thanks for making me rich, kid. You know, and I thought that was pretty funny. Another memory was that we got to meet the whole NWO Hall, Nash, Bischoff, and X-Pac at a signing. And my buddy and I got NWO chairs signed. And he signed my buddy's chair, and then my buddy handed me the paint marker. And when Kevin Nash signed my chair, the paint marker like exploded or something. And Kevin Nash's signature is just the worst signature I've ever seen. And Nash was just ripping my buddy apart, like, you did that to him on purpose, brother. You fucked his chair up, you know. But it's also a good memory. Nash comes off as a complete jerk, but the 3 times that I've got to talk to that man, he's been nothing but polite and very entertaining to talk to. So
I've actually like I've not had the chance to actually directly interact with Kevin Nash. I shot like a video promo for, I think it was I don't know, it was a manager at Blitzkrieg Pro Wrestling in Massachusetts,
okay,
like number of years ago. But I think he was like booking the show or had some manner of, I don't know, some manner of like backstage activity going on he was involved with. I didn't get the chance to talk to him. Tommy Dreamer got to perform that night. It was dope. I wish I actually got the chance to talk to Kevin, but like it was chaotic afterwards. Everyone wanted to leave, like,
oh, I bet, yeah.
so I didn't want to just like, walk into the back afterwards, being on like a small like subcontracted film crew, just be like, hey, let me just insert myself here and just,
Right.
I didn't want to pull one of those, but from what everything that I've heard from him, like about him is, he's just generally a chill, cool
Yep.
guy. And
Yeah, Scott Hall's the same thing. I mean, I've seen reports, I've read reports, but it's just, again, the few times that I was able to, talk to him and just interact with him, he was just so nice. It wasn't just a signature and pass it down the line. Genuinely curious what's going on with you. And then I got to meet him in Tampa during the pandemic for the WrestleCon down there. And it was just like a ghost town in there. And I still had like an hour before I could check into my hotel. And I'm walking around the same loop. And anybody that was free, I would just go, hey, man, what's up? How's things going? And then I talked to Scott Hall, and he was so excited about how good X-Pac looked and how he wanted to do one more run. And you could just see in his eyes how excited he was for X-Pac. And it just sucks that we lost Scott because he genuinely cared. And he was always with those two, and I really, I'm glad I got to share that moment with him down there because it was just getting to talk to him like a person, and then being so excited, I'm going to use a pun intended, to brag about his friends, so.
that's definitely like a wholesome moment right there.
Yeah. And then to tell Kevin Nash, to segue back to him real quick, because he was doing the Tampa show, and then the following weekend they were going to be in Wisconsin. And I was like, I hope you're enjoying the warm weather here, and next weekend you're going to absolutely hate it because we just got nailed with snow, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin for their wrestling show. So have you gotten a chance to meet any pro wrestlers? Here's a chance to brag. Throw out those big names if you got to meet them.
I in passing, I ended up meeting Johnny Curtis or Fandango.
Okay.
This was in 2001. It was an indie show at a baseball field. I'm trying
Okay.
to remember what the company it was. They're now defunct, I believe. It was the Independent Connecticut Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
Johnny Curtis was on the card like 3 or 4 times that day, and it was they were definitely like playing hot potato with whatever the titles were. He went through like 2 or 3 of them throughout the
Okay.
course of the day. It was a wild show. Uh, but I got to just kind of say hey and whatever. I mean, it was I didn't know who anybody was. I was young. It was a local bit. I didn't really get to experience too much of that. But
Gotcha.
one of those kind of looking back in hindsight, like wow, okay, someone I watched when I was like super young that I had no clue actually ended up going off and doing things.
Hmm. So do you ever get
Um,
starstruck? I know a lot of my friends when they meet the female wrestlers, they get all giddy. Uh, and then, when they meet other people, they're perfectly fine. For me, it depends on if they're in my, top ranking tier, how nervous I get. But do you ever get starstruck?
um, on the surface, I'd like to say no. But occasionally I'd say I like a little bit. Like if it was definitely like if it was a situation where it was like someone who was like top tier,
Hmm.
in my opinion, as far as like performers go, I'd probably need a moment to collect myself at the very least before approaching.
Hmm.
Because otherwise it's probably going to be like mush mouth or some sort of not
Yeah.
words
Yeah, I got it.
um
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say like it's I've worked with like kind of like bigger names in other industries a
Hmm.
little bit. It still has that kind of it still has that certain vibe to it though. Like no matter where it's from, if it's like musicians or say if it's like an actor or whoever, like I still get a little bit
Hmm.
giddy for sure, but I try to keep collected to not be that fan.
Yeah, I try not to be. Sometimes I forget that I am that fan. Like for instance, we got a buddy of mine, huge Ric Flair fan. He came to a local promotion in Wisconsin, and I was taking him with because it was kind of like his dream to meet Ric Flair. And I was like, all right, yeah, I've already met him, no big deal. I want to get his book signed. We'll get our picture with him. Chris, you can jump in the photo with us. And I'm not sure if you're a sports fan or not, but growing up, I was a huge Gilbert Brown fan. He was a defensive lineman for the Packers. When I played football as a kid, I thought he was the coolest thing ever. And we're in line, and my buddy's all like, "Oh, I don't know what to say to Ric Flair. I'm about to Ric Flair." And I was like, "Yeah, calm down." And then I see Gilbert Brown, the football player, is up there taking photos with the people with Ric Flair, and I was like, "Oh shit, we get to meet Gilbert." We get to meet Gilbert, and I'm like just ecstatic. I'm all excited. I'm shaking. I'm like, yes, this is the best day ever. I walk up to Ric Flair and I go, nice, thank you for coming, Mr. Flair. And I just dab up Gilbert. I was like, what's up, Gilbert? I hug him. I'm smiling ear to ear. I'll have to send you the picture. And my
Oh my
buddy, he's
gosh.
so nervous to meet Ric Flair. I'm like, I can care two shits about Flair right now. I'm meeting my favorite football player from when I was a kid. So yeah, I was cheesing the whole night because I got to talk to Gilbert Brown. So
I'm just trying to imagine that scenario. Just like, all right, well, yes, nice to meet you, Mr. Flair. Oh my God. Like,
yeah, it literally like it's so funny because everybody in line's like, oh, Ric Flair, and I'm like, Gilbert's getting like it was crazy, and then I like photoshopped it, and you can see the smile on my face, how excited I mean, I'm holding the Ric Flair book, it's autographed, whatever. If I could have had an autograph from Gilbert, I probably would have cried. It's so funny how certain people um, can impact your life. And I always tell the wrestlers who are just starting or feel like they're struggling, like you are making an impact regardless if you think you're not, because there's some little kid out there that's going to get your autographs tonight and they're going to go tell that story when they're at school, how they got to meet wrestler ABC and how he ripped up their sign. My nephew still talks about his sign getting ripped up at shows. And it's just again, crazy how people can impact your life even though that they don't know you exist in a way, So it's
Yeah,
crazy. So
yeah, definitely understandable, especially if it's like, someone who made a big impact. I mean, just
mhm,
just you mentioning Ric Flair, like I don't know how necessarily like overexcited I would be, but at the
mhm.
same time, I feel like I could, having never actually taken a bump, I feel like I could confidently elbow drop somebody's jacket or something,
Yeah.
just for the sake of saying, yeah, I pulled a Ric Flair and sit in front of Ric Flair.
Mhm. Yeah. My buddy, though, he's going to get to meet another one of his heroes, Bret Hart, coming up here. We're going to that show because he wants to meet Bret. And it's going to be so funny to watch him just sweat I'm going to send this to him afterwards and be like, at the 20-minute mark, Chris, you got to watch this because he's going to sweat. He's going to be pacing around. He's going to be all clammy. He's going to act all, brave. But as soon as he gets right next to Bret, I think he's just going to be like, yeah, best there is, best there was, best there ever be. Nice to meet you, Mister Hart. And I was jokingly telling my buddy that I would be more nervous around Natty because I think she is very great in the ring. Um,
Yeah,
as probably in my 20s, boys will be boys, but like I really do respect Natty. And I would probably just fangirl out hardcore for Natty because I feel like she's amazing, and I think she's hilarious. I would love to meet her husband too because he's very good too. But a lot of my friends are going to see Bret. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. Because he
yeah.
wasn't that big on my list of people that I idolized as a kid. You know, but is there anybody on your bucket list to meet that you would like to meet? Would it be in music or in wrestling? Since we kind of because I want to talk about what we talked about, with that independent wrestling music stuff we talked about
Oh
earlier
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So,
I mean, on that note, see, I think I don't know if I'm actually going to make the event where he's going to be there, but Jimmy Hart,
oh, okay,
Jimmy Hart definitely for more on his like production end of things, because I mean
mhm.
everyone knows Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South,
Yep,
manager to everyone who could possibly be considered Hulk Hogan's entourage
hmm,
and many more. Uh, but his early like compositions, he did everybody's theme songs. Like during say like the late golden era slash like early, new age
hmm,
or new generation um early 90s, like he did pretty much everybody's themes in the WWF at the time, and then when he went over to WCW, he did the same thing. Although I think it wasn't Dale Oliver. Who am I thinking of? The name's escaping me right now, but there's a few other like names out there that did like a lot of the compositions. But Jimmy Hart was like one of the kind of like earlier influential ones
hmm.
before Jim Johnston came in. Um, so I mean, you have Shawn Michaels' classic theme. That's thanks to Jimmy Hart right there. As as much as that song grates on me, it still sets the tone so well.
Hmm.
So definitely like Jimmy Hart, Jim Johnston, just to pick his brain a little bit because the amount of zingers that man has produced is
Right.
outstanding. I mean, there's no comparison, especially like some of the ones that he came up with during like his earlier work with the WWE. Um, I think he was also responsible for Dan Severn's theme song, which I don't know if you've ever heard his Attitude Era theme.
I don't
It's
think I have.
okay if you get the chance. If not, I'll just send you the link to it. That song has no business going that hard.
He's the MMA guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That I've met
Yeah,
him
he was.
at the local show here. I had a brain fart there. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
the guy that came out with Al Snow, Steve Blackman. I'm getting those
Oh, gotcha.
backwards for some reason
Yeah.
tonight. Yeah.
Dan Severn was the NWA world champ.
Hmm. Yep.
And he was doing like early UFC. He had a whole thing with Ken Shamrock
Yep.
and Steve Blackman, and then
Yep.
I think he ended up leaving after the whole Brawl for All fiasco.
Yeah, I know
somewhere
he
around
got
there.
into it with, I think, one of the producers backstage about match ending stuff, and he basically said, "I'll go out there and whip the shit out of your boy,
Yeah,
no problem." He's got a great book. I got it behind me there. He was at the local MMA fights doing a signing and stuff. I got his book autographed and signed, and that was a good one. I finished that in a day and a half. In his collegiate career, his MMA career, just so dominant. So
yeah,
the
yeah.
modern
That
day, I guess not modern day.
yeah,
The pre Brock Lesnar to Brock Lesnar.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely nice guy too. Super cool. A little intimidated by him because he's got that mustache and yeah.
yeah. Just no nonsense, straightforward.
Mhm.
The type of person who will fold your clothes with you still in them. Uh,
I'm cutting that out for the TikTok there. That was great, Kay. That was
uh, uh,
fold your clothes while you still. That was hilarious. That was
yeah.
great. Yeah, back to
Uh,
Jimmy Hart though. I think he wouldn't appreciate someone asking a non-wrestling question because I know a lot of wrestlers get sick of the same old questions. That's one
right.
thing I learned from Honky Tonk Man. So when I meet them, I always like to thank them for coming, and then I like to throw them a random like, "All right, who is the perfect guy to ride in the car with?"
Right.
But I think Jimmy Hart would really appreciate you diving into that music because he doesn't get to talk about it a lot, and he talks a lot. But I think he would really enjoy that conversation with you. It's too
Yeah.
bad you're not in my neck of the woods because he's going to be here in a month. Not here, but back home in my hometown. He'll be doing a show there. Unfortunately, it's the same day Bret Hart's coming, so it's kind of weird that
Oh,
you
geez.
know both Harts are in the area, and I had to, but yeah.
See, I think he's going to be in Massachusetts within the next like month or so, give or take. I'm
Mhm.
not sure though. I got to double check the dates because I might actually be able to go to that one if that's
There
the
you
one I'm
go. Well,
thinking
hopefully you
of.
get that
If not, who
opportunity. If
knows?
you do, let me know. That'd be kind of cool to hear
Right,
what he says to you. So then we'll get you back on a future episode, and then we can just unpack about you and Jimmy Hart because I always
right.
thought he was a character as a kid. I loved his suits, the megaphone. When we met him, my
Oh my
buddy
God,
got a megaphone signed that was all painted up for
nice.
Jimmy Hart. So yeah,
See, that's a prime example of like the longevity of like a perfect character. Like, I mean, not everybody might, like him as a character or
hmm
whatever, but like solid, just
yep,
overall, like solid character overall. You know what exactly you know what he's about. You know what he's gonna
mhm.
do. You know what his shtick is, and he's entertaining regardless. I mean, even still, his like more recent appearances, he still has that like
Oh yeah,
energy a little bit. You know,
yep, yeah. He definitely. When you have that conversation about who's the top manager of all time, it's usually Bobby or him that get thrown out there pretty quick.
right?
Paul Heyman obviously too, but those are your one, two, threes, and they're always changing in everybody's opinion. I put him at number two for me because I'm a huge Bobby fan. I
Yeah,
like Paul Heyman, but I'm not going to let him get over my nostalgia. Sorry, buddy. Nobody tops the brain. But like I said, I'm sure he's in everybody's top three because he
yeah,
managed some amazing people. Like you said, the music. I feel like now we need people to start, you know, getting more into that because if you're listening, folks, I hope you are. Try to ask him those other questions about music. I'm sure he'll talk your ear off about that, and you'll have a more interesting conversation probably than how
right.
many times he got to work with Hulk Hogan. So.
Right. I'm sure he's really, really tired of the same. I mean, how many
Mhm.
answers can you possibly have over
Right?
that course of time? There's only so many events that can occur, and I'm sure he gets asked about every single one of them at some point or another.
Yeah. Oh, I'd totally be a smart ass and be like, "Oh, what was my favorite match? Oh, when I got to wrestle Earthquake." Next fan, what's your favorite match? My favorite match is against the Shockmaster. Just randomly throwing out a random one every time. Because I remember I asked Honky Tonk Man at a Comic Con convention, like, did you ever meet somebody who had a tattoo of you or get a tattoo of you that you know of? I've got Dusty and I've got Dustin tattooed on me, so that's the reason I brought it up to him.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a friend of mine worked a show with him, and the loser was either Honky had to get his head shaved, or my buddy who was working the match with him had to get a Honky Tonk Man tattoo, but on his ass. And of course, Honky's not losing because he donates his hair to kids. That's a
Yeah.
whole other spiel. So my buddy Uncle Clutch ended up getting a Honky Tonk Man tattoo on his ass. And he got such a rise out of that question because it's like, you asked me a question that I haven't heard before. I don't have to talk about how many times I had to take the leg drop to Hogan, and how that went. So I always encourage people, ask them a random question that's not, what's your favorite match? Who's your favorite opponent? Because, those are the two they're going to hear all the time. So.
Right. After a certain point, it almost becomes, I feel like it must become like being a retail worker where you've got, the same spiel you have to read off to every single person. It just becomes a scripted event. It's not even
Right.
like, you don't have to reach back and actually think about it when you ask, if you ask somebody a question that actually makes them, engage, that just brings out like a whole different like dimension to a person as opposed
Yep.
to like I've been getting, a barrage of similar questions the entire day. I'm tired. Hey, here's an unrelated kind of off the wall thing.
Yep.
Like, oh, actually, you know what? Like I haven't actually engaged my brain other than like pulling up specific snippets of memories.
Yep.
Like,
because I'm sure those guys work, like if they say Shawn Michaels is their favorite match, they're going to be like, oh, which one? And they've probably worked the man a million times. It's like, oh, I better say the classic, the SummerSlam match in '92.
right. Someone asks that.
Yeah. Next time I meet like a wrestler that was on TV, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm a nobody, but I have a funny idea that could make you go viral on the internet. You're going to put out a little tip jar that says, every time you ask me who my favorite wrestler is, you have to put $1 in the jar. Like because it's like a swear jar.
Right.
I think it'd be hilarious. So somebody will probably steal that when they watch this. I don't care, but next time I meet a TV talent, I'm totally be like, you need to put out a jar that says, if you're going to ask me these questions, you need to put $1 in the jar. Make some extra purse money there. So
little Wile E. Coyote sign that says, "I'll answer that question for $5."
there we go. But yeah, let's dive into that music. You kind of asked that question. If you want to kind of throw it out there again, and then maybe we can get some people to comment on it or put their intake.
All right, so I mean, just kind of a general observation and something that like I feel like is something that's kind of in like it's kind of in need of a little bit of work as far as just elevating the indie scene in general is the fact that a lot of promotions and the talent use a lot of like copyrighted material and it makes it borderline impossible to actually have a fluid product. So because you have copyrighted stuff, you get the YouTube copyright strikes. You get the Twitch issues.
Yep.
You have to either cut around it or use something that's public domain. You have to pipe in different audio that doesn't fit. Like you play a song over whatever the video is, it doesn't fit with anything anyone's doing. You can't hear the crowd at all because you're drowning out whatever music's playing. Or something I've seen a lot is someone will start walking out, their music will start coming up, and they'll just hard cut. Everyone's in the ring, and there's no build up to it. Just all right, I guess the match is starting, and it breaks things up so much. Like not having something that can actually still fit within that production. So like having kind of either more in-house music, working with like say local artists, getting permission to use some of their music, local bands. I know that a lot of people do that to have kind of get around, the need to have, like licensed music or have to deal with royalties, that sort of thing, which, I mean, I'm sure if you came to some sort of agreement with, certain artists, there might be a royalty thing depending on how big it is, which, I mean, that's all just general, like, licensing
Yeah, leave it
agreements in
open to
general, anyways.
negotiation as you go, too. Like you heard a
Right?
certain peak, all right, let's renegotiate,
Like,
that's kind of what I do with my
we'll
vendors, and sponsors. So
yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting
We'll let
take.
you keep
Yeah.
the song, but like
Yep.
we'll let you keep the song, but seeing as you're now signing a contract to be televised, that's going to be
Yep.
a lot of
Play. Yep.
plays of their work.
Yep. Yeah, that's something definitely interesting. We see it all the time on the message pages and stuff. Support your local indie talent, support independent wrestling, and that's a great way to incorporate music and artists, photography. Again, artists who could draw up 8x10s in another style for you, graphic designers, not incorporating that music would be just another piece of the puzzle to make you stand
Right?
out. Support your local indie, music scene as well. A buddy of mine back home, I'm not real big into music. I just listen to the radio to popular songs. But for a while there, he was going to like every show down at the local bar. He's like, dude, you got to
Yeah.
come see him. You got to come see him. And then next thing you know, I discovered, Cold Kingdom. They're a relatively unknown band, but I can listen to that CD, from front to back. And every time I see them, I'm not much of a jumper at concerts, but
Yeah.
when they play a few songs, I get into it because it's like, it's really good. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like there's a few like people I'm in contact with that I ended up kind of going over the idea of like, hey, maybe I might start like making music for whoever, and like I got permission from a couple people, like, hey, if it works, if you want to use any of our stuff, go for it. And it's like, okay,
nice.
well, I got a little catalog there, so if if someone has a gimmick that fits something that already works, but it seems like it's just a kind of overall lacking thing. Like, and
Yeah.
especially like, and I get it to a certain capacity, like, finding a song that really resonates with you,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it might not necessarily fit your gimmick too. Like, it always drives me nuts seeing like character mismatches just because of like how important music is to the general presentation of
Hmm.
things. It always sets the tone,
Yep. I was
and
just going to
having
say that. Yep.
like prime example of like a big mismatch is you're familiar with who Victoria is, right?
Victoria. Yeah.
Yeah.
The wife's out
When
there. Don't tell her. Crush. Okay. She can't hear me. She doesn't watch my episodes.
but when like she was always, her whole thing was just
Hmm.
really tough, total hard ass. But yet she's coming out like to the cheesiest like Nicki Minaj track, and it's just like, no, she needs something like, fight
Yep.
music. What is this? Like, this is too bubbly and fun. Like, is she still a heel? Who knows?
Yep.
Or who is the other one? Rob Conway. I don't know if you're familiar with the term the Conway pop. It's oh, okay. So basically he had essentially the worst theme song ever. If you wanted to take the show and take it to a screeching halt, that's when you put in one of his matches, because that music sucked
Okay.
the energy out of the entire arena. Like, if you look at any of his matches, this is post La Resistance. He was doing kind of a narcissist gimmick.
Okay.
His entire his like the opening lyrics, it sounds almost like Randy Newman, like so like Randy Newman saying the words "look at me" or were the first words, and it's like, oh no, 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 no. It's like it's almost like bad lounge music. It sounds like the music from like Toy Story, but
Okay.
it's basically a song about a man who's singing about himself. And it's one thing to get, like heel heat, like, oh, nobody likes this guy, he's the villain. This wasn't even like go away heat. This was, we're just gonna choose to not interact with this.
So like Nia Jax when she comes on. Just kidding.
silent. You could hear a
Yeah.
pin drop, and then everybody's just in the crowd, just like, we don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I want to go home. I'm done. This was fun.
I'm not,
Maybe
I'm
next
not
time.
having fun anymore, guys.
But there's so many iconic songs, like, you say that just when the people walk out, you hear that glass shattering, and it's Stone Cold. You
Yeah.
hear the HBK theme. You get the Kurt Angle. The "You Suck" chant happens.
Oh my God, right.
And like you said, if independent wrestlers worked with independent artists, the benefit is there, like you said, to put it online, to
Yep.
have it being played versus your video getting flagged. I mean, I've been to a promotion. I won't put it out there where I don't know if they forgot the music guy at home or he just didn't show up. But the only like CD I think they had was like '90s golden age wrestling intros. And when the
Oh,
guys
geez.
came down, instead of just no music, they played whoever's song they liked. I remember one guy coming out to the DX one, and I'm like, what? Like, that doesn't fit.
Oh,
And then next thing you know, you got the Real American playing for the guy who's got the flag. And I'm like, what is happening here? Like,
uh,
I've been to some trash ones. They're mostly the more fun because
yeah,
no one's there, and then they can hear you say your horrible like things to the wrestlers in a fun way.
yeah,
Like, hey, you ain't got no hair, you bald son of a gun. But
right.
I know it's not a good insult. Sorry, Randy, if you're listening. But it just, yeah, I could not
More,
believe that
more,
when they were
more
coming out
personal
to
experience.
Golden Asian wrestling, and they have nothing to do with that time period. So,
That's a sad state of affairs.
yeah. Yeah, before we wrap this up, Kay, is any
Yeah.
social media outlets you want people to follow you on? Anything you want to
Um,
shout out to the universe? Any shout outs? Any more brags like that you want to throw out to the universe to let people know about? Like how I was able to meet Alexa Bliss at the Comic Con in Iowa, and my friend got super nervous, so I told her. He got embarrassed. Anything like that? Anything you want to throw out as a brag?
um, let's see. I mean, right now I'm not gonna drop like the actual like company names as of right now.
That's
We're
fine.
still in talks, but potentially gonna be doing some production work, a bit of like lighting operation, that sort of thing.
Cool, cool.
I'm actually launching a page currently. I'm starting up doing like basically custom themes. So essentially,
Okay,
like I can just sit down and go over like what your gimmick is and what the presentation is supposed to be. So it's not just like here's a song, like something that actually fits in with what's supposed to be happening. So I'm
perfect.
getting that going. Technically, there is a page. I haven't fully launched it yet, but if you want to give it a follow, if you go on Facebook and literally just search original wrestling themes, it's the only result right now.
Okay,
So that's going to get kind of beefed up, launched. I've got a little bit of like backlog material that I'm probably going to
there you
like
go.
toss up there as like examples. But and
Yeah, send
then
it our way. We'll make sure to follow and help promote it for you. So,
yes, and then
so
as well as that, my buddy who runs a lot of lights, he's the one who kind of got me the gig. If you look up KZ Lights, he does a lot of live event lighting, stage
okay,
lighting, that sort of thing. He also does rentals. Does like he set up a lot of like a couple like national touring bands, set them up with their lighting packages and programming. So
very cool.
definitely worth a look. It's KZ Lighting.
Okay,
Check them out.
awesome.
Good folks over there.
Yeah, once you get those pages running, just set
Right.
them our way. We're gonna show you off. We love bragging about
Yeah,
our
for
friends,
sure.
as you see. We like
Oh, yeah.
interacting with everybody on the page. And anything you want us to throw on, like a future episode too, we can just throw some, video up to get you some love
Yeah.
and likes over there too. Because what we do here, I mean, I know you're new to the Friends of the Squared Circle. We
Yeah.
love bragging about our friends. We love showing off our friends. Everybody deserves a little bit of piece of the pie, but mine should be bigger
Right.
because I like to eat. I'm just kidding. It's a food reference because I'm hungry. But yeah, again, anything you want us to show
Yeah.
off, you let me know. If you got some friends that need some love on their pages, We'll
Absolutely.
send some follows over there. The wrestling ones will more promote on our page, but I've got some other, the
Yeah.
collectible page and stuff that we can help follow and get their numbers up too, because that's what it's all about. I'm not Logan Paul. I'm not just going to follow one person being myself. I want to see everybody reach goals. So
If everybody elevates everyone, we
yep,
all
that's right. That's right. Keep that traction going. So, but
for sure.
Kay, I can't thank you enough for tonight hanging out, chatting with me.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
get you on a future episode. Let's keep diving into that music because I think that's going to be a
Oh,
unique topic that I feel like a lot of people aren't diving into. And then if you have a sample or something we can throw out to the universe for people
yeah.
to hear, more the merrier, and get some people out here and chit chat. So,
Excellent.
all right, now
Hey,
we got time for that video package. And like we said off camera, if you got to do your thing, you can do your thing. But it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out. Hey, friends, thanks for tuning in to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Q, a.k.a. my real name. Now let's jump into those sponsors, shall we? Make sure to check out ChefKeithFoods.com for all of your salsa needs. The best made fresh since 2019. Flavors include Ragin' Reaper, Hoppin' Habanero, Groovy Garden, and more. Check out that website today. Also, check out our friends over at Superior Creations for all of your custom tumbler needs. They are on Facebook.com/Superior Creations MN. Also, Darren Corbin, give him a like on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, Darren Corbin is on TikTok. And another great way to support Darren is by checking out patreon.com/Darren Corbin, where tiers start at just $1. Last but not least, make sure you give us a like and follow on all of our social medias as well. We want to thank you for being a friend of the Squared Circle. Tune in for more episodes. Also, if you want to get merch for yourself, you can check out friendsofthesquaredcircle.org for all of those needs. And it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out.